what's up, all of you beautiful subscribers? Welcome back to the Chapple Show. So what we're going to be talking about today are 9 things that you should never do with your money. So some of these you probably haven't thought of, and some of these you probably have. But let's just jump right into this here. All right, let's start off with number 1. So they are not ranked in any sort of order, by the way, but these are just 9 things. So here's one that you haven't probably thought of. All right, so this is custom house. What does that mean? Customizing a house that is not your forever home is a terrible, terrible thing to do with your money. If you plan on moving somewhere else in the next 5-10 years, or if you buy a house and you want to move somewhere else in the future, maybe you buy a house and you're 30 and you want to move out when you're 45 years old, do not customize your house to the point where it would make a lot of other buyers not want to buy your house. So for example, I thought of this because there's a giant house for sale in LA, or it's Beverly Hills or somewhere. It's worth, they wanted it on sale for $250 billion. It's been on sale for about a year or two now, $250 million. But here's there should be, based on how nice the house is, there should be some billionaire that wants it, right, and just would buy it up. But then over the past year, dropped to $189 million. All right, and they cannot sell this, but it's not because the property is not worth about $200 million, because it's actually a beautiful place. It's at the top of the hill. It's a place that a lot of billionaires would want. Why it's not selling is because it is way too customized. It comes with a bunch of stuff that a lot of billionaires do not want. It's very specific. It's all furnished. It comes with house staff. It's all furnished. It's all done. You have candy machines. You have a giant camera that's like 10 feet wide that just sits in the middle of a room for some reason. You have a bunch of cars that it comes with and a helipad, and although a lot of billionaires would want that anyways. But what I'm trying to say here is that it's way too customized, and it would take a lot of work, a lot of just time to make that house your own. A lot of time and effort. So, for example, if you're now putting this back to reality, to what most people's situations are, if you want to buy a house and it's $500,000, and you notice that a lot of the walls in the house are very plain. They're usually white, black. Occasionally, a children's room will be like a blue or a pink or something. But for the most part, most of the walls in the house are pretty much a generic color, sometimes yellow or beige. Why is that? Why don't they just paint the entire house green? Well, a lot of people do like the color green and would want to do that, but it would hurt the values. Because think about it, if you're a buyer, you walk in and its entire house is green, you're like, oh my God, that's going to be so much work to do that. There's so much work to paint it back to gray or silver or whatever you want to do it, whatever color. Or think about it, even just customizing the layout. Some people, or even just random things. Some people put urinals in their house. Right? Like, again, that's not good if there's a female buyer. There's a bunch of different things, but just customizing your house to the point where people would not want to buy it, that's a big no-no for your money. That's a big no-no to do because it becomes a lot harder to sell. So that's number 1. We're going to move on here to number 2. I spent too much time on that. But then again, what are some of the custom things that would turn you off if you were to walk into a house? Leave a comment down below because, for me, a very closed off house, one where there isn't a giant room attached to the kitchen, one where there's like walls everywhere and each room is like exactly 10 by 10 feet. That's a turnoff for me if there's too many walls. So is there a turnoff for you guys? Maybe you guys don't like it when a room's too open or something. Is it? I don't know. Leave a comment down below. Let's move on to number 2. Yeah. So having your money sit around. Sit around. Dollar bill, y'all. Dollar. Having your money sit around and do nothing. That's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing to do. I've done this math so many times, I won't go over this again, but if you, over the course of your lifetime, were to save up from 20 to 60 years old, you were to save up, I don't know, like $5,000 or $10,000 a year. Let's just do the math on that actually. So 30 years, you save up $10,000 a year. You save about $300,000. If you were to invest that money in the stock market, that would probably worth, just guessing, somewhere around $1 million. A lot of money. And that's only 6% return. You could also invest that money in a side business, right? That also has a really good ROI. If you have time and you have the ability to start up a side business, that's one of the most lucrative things. Oh, sorry, my microphone's coming off here. That's one of the most lucrative things you can do, is starting a side business with the money. Now, you can also use that side money to invest in real estate, but having it sit around and do nothing is the worst thing you can do. Why? Well, because obviously you're not getting a rate of return on it. But the second thing is that inflation. If your money is just sitting in the bank and you have $10,000 sitting in your bank, you lose 2% on that money every year because of inflation. So that money becomes 2%. The value of that money drops by 2% every single year by just sitting there and doing nothing. So just by keeping up with inflation, you should be investing to at least get a 2% return on that money. And high interest savings account won't do it anymore. When I was a kid, high interest savings account would pay you like 7, 8, 10% by just keeping your money in the bank. Now it's like 1% and it still hasn't gone up. So one of the worst things you can do, just having your money sit around and do nothing. Number 3, spending money you don't have. Obvious one. Again, the example that I will forever give on whenever I say this is that I've known people who have taken out loans to go on vacation because they didn't have enough money in the bank. And that the vacation ended up costing them like double because they make minimum payments on that too. And so if you were to go on vacation and you only have, $800 in the bank and the vacation's $3,000, just don't go on vacation. You don't need one. You should probably work and save up that money. That's probably a good idea if you want that vacation. So again, that's just spending money you don't have. So it's pretty much using credit cards for anything, really. Not for anything. Using credit cards when you don't have enough money in the bank. I kind of say that if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. That's my saying. If you don't have the money, you don't have the money. Now, there are also examples of debt being good, like using debt to invest in a business, using debt to buy a house sometimes can be good, to invest in companies and all that stuff, right? But for the most part, if you're using credit cards and unless you really need to, credit cards can be a decent option. Like if you need food or something, maybe you got laid off and you don't have enough money in the bank, credit cards, obviously go use that for emergency situations. I would consider that maybe even better than loan sharks a lot of the time. So, but again, for the most part, if you're just a young college student and you have $800 in the bank and you want to go on vacation, make sure your vacation is $800 max, or just don't go. Right? That's my opinion. All right, let's move on to number 4. Oh, and my marker cap just went flying. Number 4 is dumb investments. Oh yeah, these are a dime a dozen here. Sorry, let me go get my cap here. It just went flying. Dumb investments. Oh boy. You know what? I'm really considering, I really don't know if I should do this, but in future videos, I'm really considering calling people out on some. There's a lot of people on YouTube who are promoting very stupid investments, and they're making money from courses they sell and joining mastermind groups and stuff, and they're making money just from telling people to invest in this, and then it's a bad investment and people lose money. But I don't know. Do you think I should make videos like that? Because there's a lot of very trusted people out there, not just on YouTube, but just in the world, it's essentially just celebrities out there, not celebrities, but financial people out there that tell you to make really bad investments sometimes. And I looked behind the scenes of some of them, and there's a lot of sleazy stuff going around, especially from a couple people that I listen to a lot, and very famous people that you would know, and they're known pretty much nationwide in the United States. Anyways, should I call people out? I don't know. I don't know if I'll do that. Maybe one day. When I don't care anymore. But for now, getting into dumb investments. So again, just buying stupid investments, buying stupid stocks, buying penny stocks, buying, those altcoins, Bitcoins, dumb investments, just don't get into them. They're too risky. If you want to now, if you have some spare money and, you want to, I have an 80-20 rule, which I tell for beginners out there, is that 80% of your money should go towards safe stuff, safe stocks, companies that you know will be around in the next 10 years. Think about McDonald's and Coke and all those companies, Walmart, whatever. Those companies tend to be safe. Invest most of your money in those. Banks, or I guess the United States, maybe not banks, but most other countries, banks are usually kind of safe. But again, just really, really, really dumb stocks out there. Take 20% of your money You can take that other 20% and you can take risks with it. Buy strange stocks, buy tech stocks that you think are upcoming. You want to think that Twitter's going to rebound or Snapchat's going to rebound? Maybe put some money, put 20% towards that, towards those kinds of companies. The ones that are not established, are kind of on the fringe right now, but you want to take a risk. If you want to take 20%, go for it. Maybe it'll turn out, maybe it'll pan out, maybe it won't. But at least make sure 80% of your investments go towards safe stuff. Don't invest in penny stocks. This is what I would recommend. This is just my opinions, by the way. So if you have different opinions, go for it. But like Bitcoins and all that, I tend to stay away from that if you really care about your money. Yeah, man, I know a lot of people that got rich off of selling people on the idea of investing in Bitcoin. And man, I really don't want to make a video on that one. I really want to. I don't, because you know what I've noticed from a lot of those calling out people videos, they get a lot of dislikes. Some of them get a lot of views, but some of them are important because specifically one person has not been very honest with what they've been talking about over the past, over essentially a decade plus. So we're going to move on here. Number 5 is, well, actual gambling. So this is, you know, it's kind of similar to penny stocks, but actual gambling. Going to a casino, just make sure you know going in, whatever money you're gambling with, be prepared to lose it. There's one person, again, who I watched some of their videos. I'm not going to call them out, but a lot of you probably know who they are. And they make really good videos, by the way. And they've started legit businesses, so I'm gonna credit them for all of that stuff. But they want to make money now by just being a professional gambler, and they're giving up all the other businesses. And they're like, "Oh, I've been practicing a lot, and maybe it turns out." But I mean, I would never do that. I would never recommend that to anyone. So actual gambling, you know, it's funny because people buy lottery tickets too. Like the lottery right now in the United States got up to $1.6 billion. After taxes, you're going to be close to a billionaire. I don't know, if you win it in Florida, it might be different. I don't know what the tax rules are for different states, but $1.6 billion lottery. Crazy. What would you guys do with that money? Again, my general rule is if I were to ever win anything like that, now I don't participate in the lottery, so it doesn't matter. But if I were to just magically get $1 billion one day, I take half of that, I'm going to ball out. Half of that, do whatever I want, mansion, whatever, and the other half, pretty much business. I'd reinvest it, try to start another business. Although out of my own ball out money, I'd probably put, you know, a certain percentage towards friends and family and make sure that they're comfortable, right? But yeah, anyways, maybe I'll start a charity too or something. A lot of charities out there scam you too, so that's different. Anyways, we're gonna move on to number 6. Number 6 is living. Oh yeah, wait 1 second here. Yeah, I guess living above your means. We'll count that one, because this is similar to number 3, I guess, but it's different. Because the best example I give for this is like doctors. All right, doctors, a lot of the times, and they make like $200,000. Obviously, some make $500K, some make $1 million, some make $100K. Really depends on where you work and what kind of doctor you are. But living above your means, doctors are some of the worst, especially in lawyers too. A lot of them, once they start making money, before their loans are paid off, before their student loans are paid off, a lot of them will go ball out and like buy a McLaren or something, or buy a Ferrari, or buy a house that's like right at the peak of their budget that they can afford. Because hey, they're a doctor now, they can do it. Keep up with the Joneses. Living above your means it's one of the, like, if you're making above $60,000 and you do not live in like LA or New York or Chicago, and you pretty much live in a suburbs or less expensive area, if you make above $60,000 and you're living paycheck to paycheck, maybe look at your spending a little bit. Now, if you're supporting a family, that's different. Maybe your situation is different. But if you're living by yourself, $60,000 a year in some city that's, you know, less than 1 million people, where real estate's pretty cheap, maybe look at your spending and see what you can cut down. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, see what you can cut out. Because there is always maybe $100, $200, $300, $400 a month that you can find just from useless stuff that you don't need to buy. All right, we're gonna move on here to number 7. Number 7 is buying on, oh my God, buying on margin, especially when you have no money. If you want to buy on margin and you're a professional investor and you know what you're doing, okay. But for most people, you don't know what you're doing. You may think you know what you're doing, you don't know what you're doing. So what is buying on margin? Buying on margin is really close to pretty much taking out a loan to invest in a stock. That's kind of what it is. You're pretty much using the bank's money to invest more money in a stock than you actually have. Again, it's called leveraging, right? You're leveraging your investment. If that doesn't pan out, you will owe a lot of money. And then especially if you can, so if the stock, so for example, let's say you buy a stock at $100 and if it goes up, and let's say you leverage 2 times the amount. So it goes up to $5. Normally, if you've invested just your own money, you would have a $5 profit, right? If you got a leverage, 2 times leverage, then you get a $10 profit. Well, what happens when you lose money? Well, when you lose money, if it goes down $5, what can happen is, well, obviously you lose, if it's leveraged 2 times, you're gonna lose $10, but there's these things called margin calls, meaning that if the stock dips below a certain price that the bank doesn't like, or whoever you're getting the margin from, they will just sell it, and it's called a margin call, where they will just sell it and you have to pay them. And there's no chance for the stock to rebound. Even if it does rebound the next day, it doesn't matter. It's sold, you got to pay them. And you have to pay them a lot of money. So buying on margin, this really, it's very close to gambling if you're a beginner investor, so just don't do it. But if you're intermediate, advanced, I mean, I know I would be comfortable with buying on margin. I don't do it, but I would be comfortable. Same with some people I know. They'd like, but I still, if you're just a beginner and you don't have a lot of money too, don't buy on margin. All right, number 8. Again, that's just my opinion. You can do what you want. So not saving enough. Not saving for emergencies. This is a very, again, I have personal stories about this. If you don't have enough money saved for emergencies, that can really mess up your life permanently. So, I mean, for me, it was, I've told the story so many times, so I won't go over it, but for me, it's, you know, when I got sick and we can even go back to even this year too. I got a little bit sick too, but you know, when I was going through kidney failure, you know, I had money saved up. I had enough money to pretty much live for 6 to 8 months and pay all of the, you know, drug costs. And again, we have free healthcare in Canada, so I didn't have to pay for doctors or anything. But having enough money saved up where I could support myself for the most part, you know, with all the medical expenses, and I forget if I was paying rent at the time. That's so fuzzy now. I forget if I lived on my own at the time. I must have moved back in with my parents. I forget if I had my apartment back then. It's been a long time. But pretty much having enough savings to cover emergency costs, that's really big. And so for a lot of people, just having $3,000 for emergency savings, that's big. You know, even if it's just if you were to get fired. You know, having 3 to 6 months of runway for you to get your life back on track, that's important. So I always recommend, you know, whatever you can live on for 3 to 6 months, that's how much you should have in savings. If your rent is $1,000, maybe your groceries and utilities and all that's an extra $500 a month, maybe $800. Maybe you need $1,800 a month to live, or maybe it's $1,500, whatever it is. You know, save up, you know, I don't know, what would that number be? About $4,500 for 3 months. Have that money in the bank for savings for emergencies, just in case something happens. And the last thing we're going to talk about here is for young people specifically. This can really hurt you in the long run. So things to never do with your money. So again, this is kind of not a thing to never do with your money, but it's a thing that you should be doing, I guess. But I guess not getting credit early is something to never do. I don't know. There's too many negatives in there. I don't know. But you should try to build up some credit early on. When you're 18 years old, when you can get a credit card, or even if you can somehow go through your parents, get it at 16 or something like that. Try to get credit early, because that will really help you, especially by the time you're 25, 30 years old, want to buy a house. You get much better rates on everything having to do with credit if you start doing it early on and you're responsible with your money. And, you know, I started building credit, man, when I was a teenager. And, you know, by the time I was 20, when did I do this? 22, 23 years old when I made a video about it. My credit score was like 810 or something. And I didn't even know. That was the first time I ever checked. But I'd made payments on time, every time for years. Never missed anything, always paid in full. And because of that, I could theoretically, you know, if I had been making, again, this is a different story, but theoretically, if I wanted to buy a house, I could get better rates than someone who had just started getting a credit card the year before and made a late payment once. I'd get better rates, and that's in the long term, that could save you, if you're buying a house, thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars in the long run sometimes. So that's something to think about, getting credit early. So that's going to cover it for now. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. What recommendations do you have? What are some things that you think that people should never do with their money? I think that I covered a lot of them. But to leave a comment down below, leave a like if you liked this video, remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you want to support this channel, check out joisk.com. Still trying to build it right now. We have the lowest prices on the internet for a lot of stuff, especially video games. Although I think, did we just put up Black Ops? Someone put up Black Ops on the site. I don't think it was me though. I think Black Ops is now on the site. But anyways, I'd like to thank you. Man, is Black Ops on the site? And FIFA, I don't know, there's some other games. I put up FIFA, I think, or something, but that's not even you. But anyways, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Sorry for that random rant. Thank you very much for watching. You are all very beautiful people. I'll see you guys in the next video.